Nearly cut down day. Trent Williams willing to miss regular season games, holding out, and CeeDee Lamb's new contract. How does it affect Brandon Aiyuk? And we're projecting all the 53 players that'll make the team for the San Francisco 49ers right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We love and appreciate all of our everydayers out there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Serious about that now. Hit the subscribe on YouTube, maybe the notifications, when we go live. And, of course, everywhere you listen to your podcast, you can find Locked On 49ers and subscribe there. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. All right, Croc, we're going to see if we can run through this 53-man roster really quick. Matt Breida already cut by the Niners. That was something we had already projected when we had talked running backs before. So we'll end the podcast with that roster projection, and then we don't have to wait very long for Tuesday's real deal roster cut downs. We'll know who exactly is on the roster and see how close we are with that. I want to start with, though, Trent Williams and the report, Croc, that Trent Williams is willing to miss games, willing to miss regular season games and keep the holdout going into the regular season if the 49ers don't meet his contract demands. And it's something we've heard similarly that Brandon Aiyuk has said as well. Pay me the Steelers contract, trade me to the Steelers, or I'm not showing up. What do you think about the initially when I hear reports like that, I think, okay, look, if you're negotiating, your position has to be the most extreme. If you don't pay me what I want, I will hold out. Because if your position was, I would like you to pay me more, but if you don't, I'll show up and play week 1. That doesn't have a lot of teeth to it, right? So you kind of have to say it. The question is, will the 49ers call Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk's bluff on that and ask them to play this season on their existing contracts, and they are under contract and signed? Or do you think those guys might actually miss games? You're muted.
Aiyuk hasn't made the money that Trent Williams has throughout his career, where Trent Williams kind of has that FU money. If I say, I want a new contract, give me a new contract. If not, like, all right, I'm chilling. I got to pay back a little bit of signing bonus, whatever. I got that sitting in my Wells Fargo account. I'll send it over. I'll retire before I play at a salary that I feel like is beneath what my performance has been, which clearly, when it comes to offensive tackles, his performance has been at the highest in the league, if not second highest. And I'd say he's been at the highest in the league. So if he's saying he wants a new contract, look, I see a pay bump for Christian McCaffrey. I see what's going on with Brandon Aiyuk. None of that has anything to do with me. Pay me my money. I need that right now. So I think that's a guy that you have to prioritize. I'm surprised it's taking this long. Maybe they just said, well, if he's not there, throughout training camp, that's whatever, because we'll get it done during that bye week between the last preseason game and their first game of the regular season. We'll get that done, get him out here, and everybody will be happy. So I fully expect something to get done. I do not expect the 49ers to go into week 1 and not have Trent Williams running out on that field, going out in the tunnel with the boombox with Deebo Samuel. I'd be completely surprised. Aiyuk, I think they would call his bluff. Trent Williams, not sure I want to mess with the Silverback.
I think it's more likely that Trent Williams actually misses games because, we've seen him do it with the Washington Commanders too. We've seen how that has all played out in the past. Now, if Trent Williams thinks his situation with the 49ers is similar to what it was in Washington when he didn't want to play for them, then the Niners have big problems because that was a mess with Trent
I don't
Williams.
think he looked at it like that. Obviously, like there were some medical things going on with that, but just knowing that, like, I will sit out. Like, I think whatever, I'll forfeit the money for the year. Whatever. I will sit out. Like, that's the part where it's similar. there, he just said, I'm not playing this year. And he didn't play.
I find it insane to think that you would give up $20 million because you want 8 more. I think it's bonkers to me, like I'm not willing to get out. I'm not going to roll out of bed for $20 million. I'm going to retire. Well, if you're that close to retirement, then just retire, right? Like 8, you have to be the highest paid player. And like you said, I don't think it's about money. I think it's a vanity contract. I think that's part of what's going on with Brandon Aiyuk too. He wants to be in a range and they want the number. And to a certain extent, we're like, all right, have we seen the end of free agency, Croc? Because Trent Williams was the highest paid tackle when he signed his contract. He's not a free agent. Brandon Aiyuk, not a free agent, but they want to play free agent. You know what I mean? So that I will say this. I bet you, not only because the 49ers are a good team and other teams would probably love looking at the 49ers and think, this team that might keep us from winning a Super Bowl this year is having some turmoil. I think teams absolutely love when other teams fight their fight and show, hey, look, we can play hardball. Look at the 49ers. They didn't cave for Trent Williams. They didn't cave for Brandon Aiyuk. You shouldn't expect that just because you sit out a little bit that every team is always going to cave every time and give you all the money that you want, give you everything you're asking for. I think teams are looking at the 49ers thinking, yes, I hope you play hardball. I love it.
Do you think that the Christian McCaffrey extension had any bearing on Trent Williams' decision to hold out?
I didn't hear anything about it until right about that same time. I think that might have been like, oh, yeah, but you're the best in the league, so you need to be paid like the best in the league, even though you're already under contract.
Well, he was already paid. Like, where was he already?
Yeah, he went from 1 to 1, didn't he?
Right. So, and we talked about that. We were like, you brought it up. It wasn't even me, but you were like, whether Christian McCaffrey would like hold out for more money. And it's justifiable. Like the offense runs through Christian McCaffrey. His usage is so high in this offense, whether he's carrying the ball or catching 6 passes a game. So it's definitely understandable. But if I'm Trent Williams and I protect the blind side of the quarterback who eventually will be the highest paid quarterback in the league, and I'm contributing to that, and I'm playing at an extremely high level, like the highest at my position, which is one of the most important positions on the field outside of quarterback, I can understand why he's saying, well, y'all had no issues bumping CM, and we're talking about different money. I think CMC making $12 million or something like that. Then it gets bumped up to like 19, but that's a big jump for a running back.
They basically, I think, only bumped him from like 14 to 15. It wasn't even that big of a bump. I think it was more like they locked in some guaranteed years that weren't there before, because he had no guaranteed money left on his contract. And what
am I getting, like 19?
There was a big third year. So it was that 8, how the agents put out the first number. So essentially it was like, 19 mil per, but it was actually 19 mil was the average of the last 2 years that were added to the contract. But really all they did was turn a $14 million contract into guaranteed 15.5 million or something. And then there was like some funny money at the end of the contract. So it wasn't even that big of a bump, but they guaranteed next year's salary is really the key thing that happened.
Well, maybe Trent Williams shouldn't have seen whatever number was reported, because I was under the assumption that he got a big raise, and maybe Trent Williams sees that and is like, well, he got a big raise and I'm the best at shoot. I feel like my position on his offense is just as important. They've gone to a Super Bowl without an elite running back. They have not gone to a Super Bowl without an elite left tackle, whether it was Joe Staley and now Trent Williams, who's better than Joe Staley. So I just think that his argument for it comes off a little greedy, but hey, I am big on get your money, and I think he's worth it. So I'd be surprised if he's not out there week 1, and I'm very curious to see the impact of it if he doesn't play. Does this all feel a little weird to you, like that 2014 season where the 49ers are coming off of 3 straight NFC championship games and a Super Bowl, and the offseason was really weird? You start hearing kind of the rumors about Jim Harbaugh and Jed York and
Trent Williams, all 3 of them. Yeah.
And you're like, that can't be true. And then you start hearing certain things, and they had this like ceremony for the stadium, and he's like, no, my players got practice. And there was kind of like some spiteful stuff going on. And then that season was very, very weird. And then comes out afterwards, hey, they were thinking about even trading Jim Harbaugh to the Cleveland Browns. I'm like, what? So that was a real rumor? Like, just that season was very odd. And this year, after having so much quote unquote success in the sense of like you're one of the best teams year in and year out over the last few years, to get to this point where the contract negotiation stuff has gotten very weird. The vibes around this team a little low. I don't think we're running into that, but I would have told you the same thing in 2014. Like, oh, no, the 49ers would be right back in the mix. They'll probably be in the Super Bowl. And that whole year, they had a lot of injuries as well. But that whole year was very awkward. This year is starting off very, very awkward.
Right. You know what? Manti Te'o, former NFL linebacker, now an analyst, he said something similar. I want to get into that next. Let's talk CeeDee Lamb's new contract, how it affects Brandon Aiyuk. Got some cuts rolling in the NFL. Let's project out the rest of this 53-man roster next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, and there's a reason they are America's #1 sportsbook, because of offers like this. And football fans that are listening to this podcast are going to listen up, because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, which I have, and I love it, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And, of course, when you're on FanDuel, that $5 bet can be for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. How about the 49ers against the Jets in Week 1? How about Rookie of the Year, offensive, defensive? So many prop bets, win-loss totals, over-unders, all of it at FanDuel, and that's just for NFL bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Download America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Did you hear Manti Te'o's comments, Croc? It ran across my timeline today. Manti Te'o on ESPN basically said that he felt like the vibes for the 49ers preseason, they didn't look like, even when the ones were on the field, they didn't look like that bully team, that team where Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams are rolling out of the locker room with the boombox, and how they've bullied teams for the past 5-10 years. They didn't feel like that team this year. And I think there could possibly be something to it, a little bit of fatigue. I think it's good team problems, right? And we saw the Patriots win for 20 years. They didn't mess with these holdouts. They said, okay, Trent Williams, we'll trade you somewhere. Brandon Aiyuk, we'll trade you somewhere. We'll let guys walk. We've got the coach quarterback combination, and they filtered through draft picks, and they had some guys that played for long periods of time and really good core players, but they were not afraid to let people walk. They weren't trying to build super teams every year. The closest they got to that was when they traded for Randy Moss. And that didn't even last very long for the New England Patriots, because I don't know if he was a great fit, but he was a phenomenal talent and went crazy for 1 year at least with Tom Brady. But if you're going to have sustained success, you're going to filter in players. Guys are going to come in and come out, and you can't pay, like, it's not an unlimited salary cap. The salary cap's goofy, and you can circumvent it a little bit. And obviously it's still going up, which has helped a team like the 49ers keep a lot of guys. But the reality is they asked some of their best players to take pay cuts this last offseason. So they have a budget, and they're trying to figure it out. And right now it just feels like where they're at with their budget and what they think they need to pay and should pay Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams, that those two guys aren't having it. So I have no idea if they're going to actually hold out and miss game checks. I have my doubts. I don't think either player actually will. We'll see. But it's obviously not a good thing if two of your star players are holding out this late. It's bad enough when there's one. And now we've seen Jamar Chase go back to practice without a contract. We've seen CeeDee Lamb just get his contract finally at $34 million per year, which certainly doesn't hurt Brandon Aiyuk's position. But to be honest with you, I think we always expected that to be Lamb's general area once we saw the Justin Jefferson contract. I don't know. I'm not even blaming team or player at this point with any of this. And I don't know if we really ever have. It's just, it seems all not planned out. I think the 49ers had a big grand plan, and that plan is getting all screwed up.
Did they have a grand plan though? And well, this is what I do. Okay. I've looked at some of their major decisions, And a lot of stuff they've done has been off of a whim. Remember, it was not the plan to get Jimmy Garoppolo. It was the plan to get Kirk Cousins. Like, you didn't look at the other quarterbacks in that class, the Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. You didn't look at those guys because they weren't a part of your plan. It was like, well, we're going to get Kirk Cousins next offseason, so let's bypass those guys, build up the defense. I like the strategy there, building up the defense and going. And then come week 8, it's like, hey, Bill said we could have Jimmy for a second. Do you want to use him as a rental? Okay, whatever. Even though I don't really want to, but I want to, but I don't want to. But all right, because you said let's do it, I'll do it. Like, that happened off of a whim. The Trey Lance thing. I mean, that was one of the biggest disasters that we've seen. And when you go back and you listen to Kyle Shanahan talk about like their whole plan with it, it was like, you guys really had no plan. Like, there was no, all right, we're going to trade up and this is our guy. It was like, we'll trade up and see if we, which guys we like most. And maybe I change my mind. Maybe I don't change my mind, but I like this guy. But the day before the draft, I'm going to call for Aaron Rodgers. And really the guy's not going to play because I have Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, what the hell? So like, they've done things off of a whim to where when I'm looking at this offseason, how it's gone, what I thought this, I'm not a GM. I've been a GM on Madden and stuff like that, but it seemed like the smart thing to do would be if you feel like it could potentially get to a number you are not comfortable with, and I could see that, and I could understand why. Hey, dude, if we trade them in March right before the new league year starts and it comes effective, then we could probably get the best value for them. We don't plan to play them. Croc has been saying the whole second half of the year, 49ers don't value Brandon Aiyuk to that extent. We know we don't want to get to the numbers of what these other guys are getting. So let's just move off of them and let someone else pay them. And we'll take that first round pick and whatever else. We'll have all the teams available. They haven't started their offseason moves yet. So there will be more teams able to allocate money to them. In turn, there'll be more teams that could potentially give us a first round pick in return. Hey, this is a great opportunity to be able to kind of reset our receiver position while still being able to draft a receiver in the first round, while still being able to draft one in the 4th round, and maybe even get a veteran in free agency during this time. But instead, you're like, nah, we're going to play possum with him, see who flinches first. He's not budging. Let's not negotiate with him. Let's go to the draft. Maybe we trade somebody up. No, we never planned on trading him. And then like, you don't want to negotiate with him at all. And then the season comes, he holds out. Now you're like, all right, well, even though there might only be a few teams that want him, let's tell him he can negotiate trades now. It's like, where has the planning been with this? Where at what point did you guys, or maybe the plan was, well, we'll just force them to play on a 5th-year option. And now if that's your plan, then all right. But once you start saying you can negotiate a trade and whatnot,
oh no, yeah,
I don't think even making them play on the 5th-year option was your plan.
Yeah, the messaging should have been the same message all along, and that's changed. So I get what you're saying, and there's been times where it felt like the tail was wagging the dog with the 49ers. Like, you let the Colts and DeForest Buckner's agent decide your fate at a position on your football team. You let
for a guy that was drafted in the 1st round and was everything that you wanted him to be. He was a great leader. He didn't miss games. He was very productive. It was like he was everything. And it's just like, well, we don't want to pay you that much. So see if you negotiate. Your agent will find a trade partner. We want it first. Then the coach was like, we'll give up that first. I was like, all right, guess they called our bluff. We got to trade him.
Do you think that's kind of John Lynch being an ex-player, thinking, okay, are we maybe we're a team friendly, or we're a player friendly organization by allowing players to kind of boss us around a little bit and decide, oh, you don't want to be here? Okay, go find a trade. Is that like a positive thing? Is that like we're a team friendly organization? Because it feels like it's just made things more chaotic for them to even talk.
I think that
multiple times now
in any business that's ran well, and this is any walks of life, there's a person at the top that makes decisions. And when he drops the hammer, and this is what it is. And it almost feels like that's supposed to be Jed York to step in those situations, but he let them handle it. And now you have guys handling things who don't have a whole lot of experience handling these decisions. That might be what it is. Like it's not like Kyle Shanahan has previously been a head coach and then now he's a head coach, how am I trying to say this? Most head coaches, when they finally get like a lot of control, they've been coaching for years. Like Sean McVay, as good as he's been going to Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl, it's like Les Snead or whoever their GM was, like that's the guy that made the calls. This is what we're gonna do, right? Like it wasn't McVay, and it wasn't McVay at least right away. Kyle has been in control right away, and somebody who had never been in that position, and maybe that's what we're seeing is. And Jet York, who should be stepping in, is like, I'm gonna let you guys do your thing.
But you could make that excuse that they were naive and a little green 7 years ago. They've been doing this for 7 years now. They are veteran decision makers at the top of an organization right now. So you can explain away, oh man, we thought we could fix Deshaun Foster. We weren't worried about his off-field stuff. The on-field scouting was right, but we missed the stuff. Reuben Foster, excuse me. Who's the running back? Joe Williams. Okay, that was first year stuff, and you learn from it, and then you're like, okay, we can't mess around with that. Only high character guys from now on, and then they've hit on a lot of really high character guys. The not scouting the quarterbacks in 2017 thing, the Jimmy Garoppolo stuff, but they're beyond, they're not green anymore. So you can't even say that you can't pass it off as them being inexperienced anymore. They are super experienced now. So for the
and they win.
Wagon dog is probably not a great thing. They've still built a great roster though. Again, these are first world problems we're dealing with here, Croc, with the 49ers, best team in the league. You lose. How good is the 49ers roster? Let's say Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk never play for the 49ers again. Where would you rank the 49ers roster in the NFL? Still top 5, maybe still 1.
I don't know about 1. It starts to get a little weird. Like somebody just put up Eagles and their guys on offense and 49ers. And to me, it's like, 49ers have the edge. But you start taking a couple guys away, and it can start to look a little weird to where now, you look at the Lions, they're kind of coming. They like Gibbs. They like Montgomery. They got their quarterback Goff, who's playing very well. They got Sam Laporta. He was a rookie last year. He was really good. You got St. Brown, who, he's making $30 million a year. And James Williams, he's turning that corner. He's starting to look really good at receiver. So if you start to take a step back in certain areas, there are other teams where they're kind of on the up. And the 49ers, we talk a lot about their decision-making, they win. And I think right now, that's what they're hanging their hat on. Hey, we've screwed up some decisions. Croc thinks that the whole Trey Lance way we went about it was stupid. But in the midst of all of it, we still got a franchise quarterback out of Brock Purdy. But it almost feels like, again, what exactly is your plan with all of this? And because I don't understand it, maybe it's not for me to understand. Croc, we're still going to Super Bowls and conference championship games. So just chill out, let us handle it. And even if it gets weird, we'll still figure out a way to where this team is very competitive. It just feels a little off right now.
Yeah, we could light 3 first-round picks on fire, go trade up and get a quarterback at number 3. And guess what? We still got a franchise quarterback. So don't worry about it, Croc. We'll figure it out in the end. I do think with one last note on the Aiyuk thing. Remember, Aiyuk was shopping for a suit to announce his contract. And then some other deals came through. I think the 49ers are probably wait, no takebacks. We had a deal at this number. And Ayuk's no, the number's higher now. And I think the 49ers don't like that at all. And I think that was kind of where the 49ers are well, look, we had a deal at 26 or whatever it was. So we're still there. And that's where they start talking to him. I think that's reading the tea leaves. I think that's maybe what happened. And look, you could get dealt 2 aces in a poker hand and it looks great before the flop. And all of a sudden 2 kings come out in the flop. You realize, man, the guy across the table from me has a king. And now my hand is not the best at the table anymore. So I'm not at a position of strength. You got to realize that too, if you're playing poker, and you got to bully everybody out before the flop with your aces, or else it might not be the best hand in the end. And I think that's what happened with the 49ers. And now they want to go back to the way it was before the flop. And you can't do that.
I feel like when he was talking about it though, he did say that they were really close. And then he made it seem like he didn't. It's what happened? We were so close to signing. That's what I thought. I didn't know it was obviously I know eventually contracts started getting signed, Some of them don't have anything to do. Justin Jefferson has nothing to do with him. CeeDee Lamb, even with Jamar Chase when he signs, like he's not even asking for that. I see a lot of people talk, he's not worth $34 million. He never asked for $34 million. He never asked for $35 million. He's just asking for where he should be properly slotted, which is roughly around $28, $29 million a year, which I do think that is right where he should get paid.
We got the roster 53 figured out. We'll get to it right now. Okay, Croc, I got the roster numbers. I think we got this set. I think we can run through it fast. We've already done some like projection for certain position groups here. So we have a good idea of how this is going to look for the 49ers. Matt Breida has already been cut. Who knows? Maybe someone's been cut while we've been recording this podcast Monday night for your YouTube pleasure and for Tuesday morning's audio listening. And then we'll find out later Tuesday exactly what the roster looks like. 3 QBs, right? I don't know what QB2 is. I don't know what the order is going to be. Kyle Shanahan said he hasn't announced it. He doesn't know yet, but it's Brock, it's Dobbs, and it's Allen. Yeah.
I feel very comfortable with that. Heck, just, from a number standpoint, I wouldn't be at all. I didn't think it would be bad if they went Brock, Dobbs, and released both Allen and Mordecai, and then just see, hey, who clears waivers and bring back one on the practice squad.
I could absolutely see that, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't know if the 49ers will do that. I think they like Allen too much. I think they'll. And
I don't think Allen would clear. I think somebody would pick him up. He is I think he's, when you think of a backup quarterback, he's probably everything that you kind of want that guy to be.
Solid backup. Maybe a trade, though. Maybe a last-minute trade. Maybe they get a 6th-round pick or something for Brandon Allen. And he wouldn't
trade Nick Mullins for a 6th-round pick. Do you think he's going to trade Brandon Allen for one?
They wouldn't trade Nick Mullins for a 3rd-round pick. Right? Isn't that what the story was back? Like CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins were untouchable back in the day. Hey, the roster's come a long way from then. Okay. Running backs, it's 5. Breida's been released. I think Cody Schrader is going to get cut. I don't know if he's going to get picked up on waivers. I don't think the 49ers are that worried about it, but might bring him back to the practice squad. It's Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerendo, and Kyle Juszczyk. And then Patrick Taylor's also Patrick Taylor got into the game before both Schrader and Breida, by the way. So he's kind of your dark horse, but I think he also gets the axe.
Would you bring him back on P squad before Schrader?
I don't know. I guess so. Bring them both back. I don't know. I didn't see enough from Schrader to be like, oh, you got to bring this guy back. So whoever you think can help you the most, and who knows, there's going to be another undrafted running back next year for you. Wide receiver, 6. Brandon Aiyuk still counts because he's holding in right now. Unlike Trent Williams is on the did not report list. So if I'm not mistaken, right now Brandon Aiyuk would count against the 53 on Tuesday. Trent Williams would not, the way I understand it. Yeah. So Brandon Ayuk's one of the 6. Is he going to be ready for week 1? I have no idea. Ricky Pearsall, he was back to practice in the blue jersey today. Is he going to be ready to go? I don't know. The other 4 better be ready to step up. And those other 4 are Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Jacob Cowing, and Chris Conley. You see anything different?
I like it.
Okay. And then see what happens with the rest of the guys. Maybe you bring back a Ronnie Bell to the practice squad. Maybe Robbie Chosen, veteran practice squad. Maybe something happens and you got to bring. Honestly, I don't think Robbie Chosen's going to make it. He wasn't given a lot of effort when ball wasn't going his way, when in blocking. I didn't really like what I saw there.
Yeah, I watched him. It seemed more like, hey, if somebody goes down, we can bring you back.
Yeah, he felt like we need numbers, and he's a veteran, and maybe Aiyuk goes squirrely and break in case of emergency. I don't think we're in that emergency, even when 2 of the 6 wide receivers might not suit up in week 1. But 4 is enough. Give 4 a jersey and get Jacob Cowing on the field as wide receiver 4. I don't have a problem with that at all. Tight end. I've got 4, but it could be 3. I think Latu gets cut. Tongas probably cut. Mason Pline, the undrafted rookie, cut. Put him on the practice squad. You got George Kittle, Eric Saubert's number 2. Braden Willis kind of moving around and doing some things for you. And then the question is Logan Thomas number 4? They had cut him and then they brought him back. Did they just bring him back for preseason stuff, or is he actually going to make the team? So is it 3 or is it 4? Or do they keep Latu or Tongas, do you think?
If they do bring him back, I think that there's a chance they let him go. They cut him already. Nobody picked him up. I assume that they would be willing to release him again and potentially bring back on the practice squad. And obviously we know that you can elevate guys on P squad. So I think that's what Logan Thomas' role would be.
By the way, Dominic Pooney won the starting right job guard, Croc, because Spencer Burford was back to practice and he was running with the twos while Pooney was running with the ones. John Feliciano's.
We all saw that coming.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about some of their mishaps, but the 49ers have done a really good job, in other rounds, really acquiring talent and maybe having more of a plan in those. And Dominic Pooney, from the first time I watched him, I'm like, oh, unless I'm tripping, this guy's a starter.
All right, here's my 9 offensive linemen. Trent Williams doesn't count because he did not report. John Feliciano does count. Then you put him on IR so you could potentially bring him back halfway through the season. So those guys will basically swap on Wednesday because Feliciano goes back to IR. Then you have a spot open back up for when Trent Williams eventually signs, and you hope he signs next week. But probably won't sign before Wednesday. Trent Williams, or Feliciano now, that becomes Trent Williams. Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney, Colton McKivitz, Jalen Moore, backup left tackle. You got Spencer Burford, backup guard. I would like to see him take some reps at tackle. That's 7. Now, you've got Zakelj, the rookie Jarrett Kingston. You've got Chris Hubbard at tackle. You got Ben Barch. You need 2 more from that group. I think Drake Nugent goes to the practice squad as a center. I think they might lean towards the rookie 6th rounder and Jarrett Kingston. And then you bring Hubbard because you need a 4th tackle. And especially with not knowing what's going on with Williams, I think you have to bring Hubbard. That means you would cut Barch and Zakelj. It feels like they really like Zakelj. I don't know how he keeps hanging on. The last couple of offensive line spots get pretty interesting for me. I think you got to bring Hubbard and more because you need 3 offensive tackles, because if Trent Williams doesn't sign and misses week 1, you might even have to go bring another tackle in.
I know Kyle was asked about the rookie Dominic Pooney potentially playing some tackle. What was his response on that? Because he's been tremendous at guard. As a rookie, you don't want to throw too much at these guys and start cross-training and play other positions. But has it just been not just guard, even though he was a tackle in college?
I mean, I think they would have already done that. If anything, I think it would be Burford who would take that role, because I don't think they don't want to mess with their starter at guard now, and he hasn't done anything except for right guard in all of camp. I think in OTAs maybe he's doing some left guard. But yeah, I think the ship has sailed on using him at tackle, at least this year. Who knows? Maybe they'll revisit that next year if Trent Williams retires or something. So that's 9 offensive linemen. Hubbard, I'm going to say goes. And do you agree? It's between Kingston, Zakelj, or Barch.
Let's go Kingston.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I just realized there's a big problem with that. With Feliciano hurt, there's no backup center. So you have to keep Barch or Zakelj. So maybe that means, so Hubbard, yeah, so I think you cut Hubbard, you make a roster spot, you bring him back, and that way you can keep like Zakelj and Kingston or something like that. I like Barch better at guard. Apparently they like Zakelj better at center, which means he might make the team, Croc. I think I got to put Zakelj as basically man 53 on this roster because they need a backup center.
I don't have a take on that.
Snaps. All right, let's roll through this real quick on defense. We got 9 D-line, 5 linebackers, 5 corners, 4 safeties, 3 special teamers. We know the special teamers: kicker, punter, long snapper. That's done. Defensive line: Bosa, Collins, Hargrave, Floyd, Gross Matos, Jordan Elliott, Kevin Givens, Beal. That's 8. You get 1 more out of Alex Barrett, Nick Williams, Sam Okayu. New that name badly.
Sam, we'll just call him Sam.
Sam, you got they might need numbers at defensive end, so Alex Barrett's probably the one I lean to in this. You got Jonathan Garvin, T.Y. McGill, Evan Anderson, Shaquille Brown. Pick one from that group.
Ooh.
Barrett, right? He's the veteran.
I was thinking Barrett or McGill, but
I think the 5th, if they keep 9, the 5th end is more important with the YGM injury than the 5th tackle would be, unless they keep 10 defensive tackles, in which case they could take both. They have to drop numbers somewhere else. Linebacker is with Greenlaw out. He's on PUP. You got Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, Curtis Robinson, Demetrius Flanagan Foles, D. Winters. That's 5. Bethune, Graham. You keep one more?
How many do they typically keep with linebackers? I feel like it's around 5.
5 or 6.
6. That seems
Greenlaw
like
would be the 6th on PUP that would eventually come back. You have to start going light at some of these other positions because we're running out of numbers. Do you only keep like 3 safeties? Do you go Jair Brown, Isaac Yiadom with Hufanga on PUP? I'm sorry, Jair Brown, George Odom, Malik Mustafa, and then you cut Tracy Walker and Jalen Mahoney? You only keep 3 safeties? You got to go with 4.
I kind of like the thoughts of keeping Mahoney around.
Oh, you like Mahoney more than Walker?
But yeah, I mean, if it's close, which I feel like it's like, I don't think Tracy Walker has been like this great safety. If it's a conversation, I feel like you go with the youngster. But because of that, maybe you just think you can sneak them on P squad. So then you have 3, you can allocate another person to a linebacker spot, and then eventually you get Hufanga back. But that's kind of playing with fire, only having 3 safeties. I think maybe so because of that, maybe they go with Tracy Walker, just the veteran, to hold it down until Hufanga comes back. Like hold down just depth at the safety position. That's a tough one.
Yeah, unless there's some phantom injuries where guys go on IR that we didn't expect. That's where some of these injuries and holdouts really hurt because it's hard to find a place where you're going to save numbers at one position so you can take an extra player somewhere else. I think they probably have to take 4 safeties. And do you take 5 corners? I've got them down for 5 corners because this is the last position and we only have 5 spots left. That's Yiadom, Lenore, and Ward. And then you've got 2 more backups, Rock Ya-Sin and Renardo Green. That's still not even counting Darrell Luter.
The cornerback spot. And
that's with that's with only keeping 5 linebackers too. You still only have 5 corners.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be pretty easy. All right, so yeah, Ward, Green, Lenore. Boom, that's 3. Yiadom, of course. So then, yeah, you got that one more spot, and it feels like Rock Ya-Sin has gotten a lot of reps. He's gotten a lot of reps. He's only 5.
I think you've got to keep the young player over Rock Ya-Sin, right? Unless you you must not believe that Luter's going to get there if you keep Rock Ya-Sin's on a 1-year deal. Luter's only in year 2 of a rookie contract. So you must really not believe in Luter if you're going to take Rock Ya-Sin, who's your 5th corner.
28 years old. I didn't see anything from Luter that said you have to keep Luter. I mean, if I was to keep any of those guys, maybe Samuel Womack, but again, I like him more as the outside guy than in the nickel, and they like him more than
Womack. I totally forgot about Womack. Oof. See, that's tough.
Yeah.
And again, with the injury to Yetur Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd, you can't go like super light on defensive line and keep maybe only 8 there. With Trent Williams out, you can't go light on offensive line and only keep like 2 other tackles, even though you might want to add guys. I think there are some veteran bottom of the roster players, veterans that might get cut, like Rock Ya-Sin, and they promised to bring them back, but they get cut. And I think there's also money reasons why, because if you are a veteran player, I forget how many years accrued, but if you're a veteran, your season contract becomes guaranteed if you make the opening day roster, or you can just wait a week and then bring it back.
Which I think they'll do that, something like that with Tracy Walker.
Yeah, and I can see Rock Ya-Sin
sneak somebody else on IR that can come back, and then go with Tracy Walker at safety. Yeah. I like the thoughts of the rookie though, Mahoney, but having a veteran.
Practice squad him up, get him ready.
Because you already got a lot of other young safeties like Jair Brown, young. The rookie Mustafa, young. Odom has been more special teams than and it's not that he can't play safety, but Tracy Walker might sneak his way on.
The one that hurts is the holdout in Trent Williams, because if he doesn't play in week 1, you got to have 3 tackles. So that means you got to take 4 into the season, counting Trent Williams and him not even play.
Yeah.
But you get an extra roster spot if he doesn't show up too. So he doesn't count towards the roster. So I guess that takes care of that.
Right.
All right. there we go. What do you guys think? 53-man roster. We'll find out soon. And of course, we'll have it all covered for you as we do every single day here on Locked On 49ers. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to this podcast. And we appreciate you making us your first listen. And for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Football. How about Locked On Dynasty? Get daily insights into the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your leagues this season. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.